AMEBO family, gather round. I've got a story for you. You have heard of masquerades before. Not the kind that dance with drums and masks, but the kind that don't just hide faces. They swallow souls. They say it floats, and tonight we follow the footsteps, or lack of them, to uncover a secret that was never meant to leave the shrine. In a quiet village nestled between thick forest and whispering rivers, there lived a young woman named Morayo. She had beauty that didn't shout, it whispered. Eyes like wet earth after rain, voice like the hum of ancestral drums. But what truly set her apart was her hunger for the forbidden. Morayo was a weaver by trade, spinning clothes by day and dangerous questions by night. The kind elders refused to answer. Curiosity was her rebellion, and for years, one mystery burned brighter than the rest. The floating masquerade of Ajogun. They say once a year, on the night the moon turns red, the masquerade appears in the forest, not touching the ground, not carried by men. It simply hovers, swaying to drum no one plays, and no one is allowed to watch. Not even the chief, not even the priests, only the chosen, only the dead. One midnight, as fireflies blinked like warning signals, Morayo did the unthinkable. She followed the path of palm oil and feathers deep into the forest. Her wrapper clung to her skin, not from fear, but from sweat and something else, anticipation. She didn't believe the stories, she believed in truths. But what she found was something far more dangerous. The forest was empty, silent. Then she heard it. Not footsteps, not wind, movement. Out from the mist it came, a towering figure, robed in white and deep red. Its body covered in cowries, rusted bells, and bones that didn't belong to any animal she knew. No feet touched the ground. No man carried it. It simply glided. It moved like smoke, like thoughts, and then it stopped right in front of her. Morayo gasped, not from fear, but recognition. The air grew thick like the space between a heartbeat and a kiss. There was something sensual, magnetic about the way it moved. A rhythm beyond dance, beyond control. The masquerade began to circle her, and with every sweep the air pulled at her clothes, her thoughts, her breath, and then a voice. But it didn't come from the masquerade. It came from inside her mind. Why have you come, Morayo? She staggered back. I wanted to see the truth, she whispered. I don't believe in fairy tales. Then why does your heart beat faster? Her lips trembled. The masquerade turned away, then paused. Touch me, it said. No mouth moved, no sound escaped, but the words throbbed in her chest. Her hand, against her better judgment, reached out. Her finger brushed the fabric, and the world folded in on itself. She was no longer in the forest. She stood in a shrine centuries old. Candles lit themselves, walls bled symbols, and seated around her were women floating just like the masquerade. Their eyes glowed red. Their mouths didn't move. One of them stepped forward. She looked just like Morayo, but older, wiser, dangerous. You have crossed into the world of the Ajogun, the Watchers, the Enforcers, the one who punish those who ask too many questions. Morayo tried to scream, but she couldn't. But you are special. You saw the masquerade and didn't run. You listened. You obeyed. That means you belong here. She was chosen. Suddenly, she was back in the forest. But something was different. The masquerade was gone, and her feet were no longer touching the ground. She floated. Drums began to echo in the distance. No one was playing them. She turned slowly, weightless, and realized she wasn't Morayo anymore. She was the masquerade. The next morning, the villagers gathered. The shrine gate was open. Forbidden, but Morayo was gone. Only a wrapper remained at the edge of the forest, soaked in dew and blood. They told stories, but no one dared go searching. AMEBO family, they say spirits don't forget. They say the forest keeps what it takes, and when it gives it back, it always takes something else in return. The whole village gossiped about Morayo. Some said she was sleepwalking. Some said she followed a voice only she could hear. But what everyone agreed on was that she never came back. After 7 days, they buried her wrapper by the river. After a month, her mother stopped cooking her favorite ogi. After 6 months, the hunters avoided that side of the forest altogether. And after a full year, she became a whisper, a caution, a name no one wanted to say too loud, until the dogs began howling again. It started at dawn, not just one, all of them, as if they were warning something or mourning it. And then came the birds, dozens of them, bursting from the treetops like they were escaping something beneath them. Children were called inside, doors were shut, even the breeze changed, no longer cool, no longer warm, just strange. That was when Auntie Yemisi screamed, "Look!" She stood at the edge of the village, right where the sand ends and the bush begins. Morayo, alive, still barefoot, same wrapper, not dirty, not torn, no bruise, no scratch, but her eyes, not brown anymore, pale like moonlight trapped in a gale. She didn't say a word. People didn't run, they froze. One of the village women, Mama Ireti, whispered, "But she's been gone for a year." The silence that followed was louder than thunder. The next morning, Baba Isale, the oldest man in the village, came to see her. He brought kola nut and bitter leaf. He placed it on the ground in front of her. Then he looked at her for a long time and said quietly, "You came back, but you are not alone." Later that night, the whispers began, not from her mouth, but from her walls. Those who lived close to her heard soft humming, like lullabies from another world. And once, just once, someone said they saw a shadow move when she was standing still. The next day, there was drawings, charcoal symbols outside her hut, circles within circles, bones in the shape of eyes. No one saw her draw them, but they were fresh each morning. When asked about them, she simply blinked. "I didn't draw anything," but her hands were black with charcoal. Mysterious things started happening in the village. Rumors spread out like wildfire. Some said that Morayo has now become a witch. Others said that she was a walking dead. On the 7th night, after Morayo's arrival at the village, the breeze changed. It was exactly the time she disappeared a year ago. And on that night, a boy walking home swore he saw Morayo floating just above the ground. He blinked his eyes and she was gone. No one believed him, or perhaps they were too scared to believe it. Some villagers went to check up on Morayo, but she was not in her room. They noticed her bed was cold and there was mud all over the room. Morayo came back, but she didn't return the same. And this was only the beginning. They thought it would end with Morayo's return, but they were wrong. Different spirits started coming into the village. It was Uncle Korede, a palm wine tapper, known for his loud mouth and big stomach, who first saw one of the spirits standing at the foot of his palm tree. He called out, "Who be that?" But there was no response. At first, he thought it was a thief, but as he appeared closer, the spirit turned around and vanished into the tree. Not behind it, into it. He ran like his life depended on it. His stomach was way ahead of him in the race. And since that day, he didn't return to the tree again. Mama Sade, a traditional woman, announced that a sacrifice has to be made to the gods to pursue evil spirits from the village. A white chicken, 2 liters of palm oil, 7 eggs, and pap was to be kept for the sacrifice. When they tried to slaughter the chicken, the blade bent twice. The third time, the chicken burst out of the rope and ran straight into Morayo's hut. They ran after it, but the chicken had disappeared. Not a trace, not a feather, not a single skulk. Fear gripped everyone who witnessed it, especially when Morayo said she didn't see or notice anything. A few days later, some of the villagers who went to fetch water at the river said they heard someone humming behind them as they walked. A few days later, some of the villagers who went to fetch water at the river said they heard someone humming behind them as they walked. But when they turned, it was only the wind. The humming was soft, like a woman comforting a baby. Only problem was that there was no baby. One evening, Ireti, the boldest girl in the village, followed the sound. She tiptoed barefoot, holding only a lantern and her mother's rosary. The sound led her past the yam barn, past an abandoned well, to the broken shrine where Morayo met the masquerade. She heard the voice clearly now, singing, crying, calling a name, Ajogun, Ajogun. Then the singing stopped. Her lantern flickered. She turned back and saw a hand resting on her shoulder. She screamed. When the elders found her the next morning, her eyes were open, but she couldn't speak for 3 days. When she had recovered, she kept on saying, her mouth wasn't moving, but she was singing. Her mouth wasn't moving, but she was singing. How is that possible? Baba Isale, the oldest man in the village, who had been quiet all along, whispered, only the Ajogun can do that. Instantly, Ireti shouted as if she had just remembered something. Yes, the Ajogun. Baba Isale tried to hush her. Ah, don't shout its name. The Ajogun is always watching and listening. Immediately, lightning cracked. There was thunder strikes and everyone tried to hide under something. The baobab tree behind the house caught fire and then it started raining. Not water, but feathers. White, black and red. Hundreds of them. The feathers didn't stop falling. They floated like ashes from a funeral poured into the sea. White, black and red, coating rooftops, soaking into the soil and clinging to people's clothes like warning. No one dared speak for a while. Even Mama Shade, whose tongue never rested, was quiet. When the rain finally ceased and the baobab tree behind Baba Isale's hut had burned down, the villagers gathered again, but this time at the village square. They were trembling, desperate, looking for meaning in the madness. He sat beneath the moonlight staring into the fire as if the flames whispered to him. When he finally spoke, his voice was low like a secret. This is not new. This has happened before. Mouths opened, eyes widened. The younger ones leaned in, the older ones shifted uncomfortably, but no one interrupted. He told them of a time long before their fathers were born, a time when the Ajogun walked among men, not hiding in shadows but in plain sight. A warrior spirit, cast out from the spirit realm for disobedience, forced to wander the earth. But he found pleasure in chaos. He took brides not for love but for blood. And when they tried to stop him, the rivers turned red and the winds spoke in voices. He was bound, Baba Isale said, by our ancestors, trapped in a shrine of silence. Then Mama Shade stood, her voice shaking but still proud. This is why she must leave before someone die. But before Baba Isale could answer, a voice interrupted. It was soft but clear, coming from the shadows. It was Morayo. She stepped forward, her face pale, her eyes glowing faintly in the firelight. Leaving won't stop him, she said. He's not chasing me, he's calling me back. That night, silence held the village in a grip tighter than fear. Morayo walked back to her mother's hut alone. No one offered to walk with her. No one even met her gaze. Inside, her mother had been waiting by the door, sitting on a low stool, like she had known Morayo would return with more than just words. She didn't speak as her daughter entered. She simply watched, and Morayo, perhaps for the first time since her return, looked like a child again. Not the girl who stood at the center of feathers and fire, but a daughter, one who had lost herself somewhere and didn't know if she would ever fully come back. Hours passed. The moon climbed and dipped. The village dogs howled into the dark. Then finally, Morayo's mother rose. "Wake up," she said quietly. "Tell me," Morayo's mother said, her voice trembling slightly. "Where were you that 1 year? The entire year you disappeared. What happened to you, Morayo?" And that was when it began. The confession. The unraveling. Morayo's lip parted, but no sound came. She closed her eyes and inhaled deeply, as if she was pulling courage from the past. "I didn't mean to go," she started. "That day, the day I vanished, I followed a sound. A song. It was calling me, sweet, soft, but strange. I thought it was just a child singing near the shrine. But when I got there, I saw him." Her voice faltered, but Morayo's mother placed a hand on their knee, steady and sure. "He floated above the shrine like mist," Morayo continued. "Not walking, not standing, just hovering. He wore a mask I can't describe. It changed. One moment it looked like a man's face, then a beast. Then it was just blank, like a god with no eyes. I turned to run, but he spoke, not with his mouth, with my thoughts. His voice was inside me. He said, 'You have heard the song. You have crossed the line. You belong now.'" Mama Ronke gasped softly. He pulled me without touching me. One moment I was in the shrine, and the next I was somewhere else. A place that felt like it was nowhere at all. There was no sky, no ground, just floating land, fog, and women. So many women. Her mother's hand tightened. They looked like me, girls from other villages. Some older, some younger, all barefoot, all silent, but their eyes screamed. Morayo swallowed. Her body trembled as memories spilled out faster. He made us do things, seduce hunters, lead them to the edge of the spirit realm, where the trees whispered and the wind could slice skin. The men would follow, bewitched, and once they crossed, they never returned. I never saw what happened to them. I just heard screams, and then silence. I tried to resist the first time. I refused to go. But then I watched as one of the girls who disobeyed was turned to ash with a single look. Her name was Adeshewa. She was only 12. Morayo's mom raised her eyebrows in fear as she gasped. So I obeyed. I survived, but I hated myself, and somehow that made him like me more. He called me my jewel of sorrow. I became his favorite. The others, they began to hate me. I didn't blame them. The Ajogun gave me more freedom. I was allowed to wander further. He gave me things, beads that hummed, water that burned like fire but healed wounds. Once, he even showed me the sky of the living, but only for a moment. The more he gave, the more I planned. I waited for his weakness. I watched his movements. I counted his rituals. Then one day, he returned late, drained from his sacrifice that took too much from him. That night, I found the edge of the spirit realm. I leapt. I thought I would die, but I woke up on the shrine floor, covered in feathers. Morayo's mom had not said a word all through. Her eyes had filled slowly with tears. "You were gone a year," Morayo's mom finally whispered. "But you returned, only to be haunted by a spirit who still calls your name." Morayo nodded slowly. Then her mother did something Morayo hadn't expected. She took off her head scarf, wrapped it around her daughter's shoulder and said, "You are still mine. Still my daughter. Spirit or no spirit, I will fight for you." They wept, not like victims, but like women preparing for war. Outside, somewhere deep in the forest, a sound echoed, not from an animal, not from a man, but from something in between. And just like that, the next chapter of the village's nightmare began to write itself. At the riverbank, women lined up with their calabashes. It was a morning ritual. Fetch water before the sun rose too high. But this morning was different. The first scream came from Aduni, the widow with the twins. She had bent to dip her bowl when she saw it. The water wasn't water. It was thick, it was red, and it was moving slowly, like something breathing beneath. She stepped back, trembling. Others came close, looked down, and staggered away. The entire river had turned to blood. Not the way palm wine stains water in celebration. Not the way red sand gives color after a flood. This was blood with a smell that clung to the back of your throat. By noon, the news had spread across the village. The women refused to cook. The men refused to speak unless spoken to. Inside the elders' hut, a red gathering was underway. 7 men, 7 stools, 1 silence. And in the center, Baba Isale. His back was straight, his wrapper was white, his eyes were closed, but he was wide awake in thought. He didn't speak immediately. Let them stew in their silence. They needed to remember how long their ancestors had warned them about disturbing ancient forces. Finally, his voice broke through. The Ajogun has made his first demand. The others shifted nervously. He wants the girl, Baba Isale said. And if she doesn't return, he will not stop with the river. This is not the kind of spirit you feed and forget. The Ajogun is not just a masquerade. Mama Sade alongside some villagers were outside Baba Isale hut, and they told him they were going to throw Morayo into the shrine for the Ajogun to do whatever he pleases with her. We can't all be in suffering because of Morayo's foolishness. We have tried enough, and it is time for her to go. The villagers cheered as Mama Sade spoke. Instantly, they turned towards Morayo's house, marching like they were on a mission to set the world free. The doors were tightly shut, windows closed. When they got to Morayo's house, Mama Sade shouted, "I won't shout, I won't curse. I just need you to come outside, Morayo, or else you won't like my other side," Mama Sade shouted. Morayo's mother started pleading from inside. "Please, don't take my daughter away from me. You are also a mother too. Don't make me lose my only child." Mama Sade was ready for war. Everything Morayo's mother said ended on deaf ears. They gathered with stones, not to build a house, but to cast one down. Morayo stood in the center of the room, scared. Mama Sade led the charge as they tried to break down the door. Her voice sharp like a broken calabash. She brought the Ajogun. "We warned you." First, the baobab tree burned. Then feathers fall from the sky. Now, even the rivers bleed. The crowd murmured in agreement. The girl is no longer one of us. She is a spirit, a witch. Throw her out. The door to the house was broken, and 2 hefty men were already dragging her out. Morayo's mom, weary from sleepless nights and silent prayers, fell to her knees. "Please, she is my child." Mama Sade eased. "Then, take her and leave." Someone threw a stick. Someone else picked a stone. And then a voice, deep, calm, unshaken. "Enough!" The sound rolled through the air like distant thunder. All eyes turned. He stood at the edge of the square, framed by morning dust. Tall, scarred, one arm wrapped in thick leather. His face was hard, but not cruel, and one of his eyes glowed faint blue, like something ancient lived behind it. He didn't ask permission. He walked straight to Morayo. She looked up at him. Her lips trembled, but her body didn't flinch. He nodded once, then turned to the crowd. She is not cursed, she is chosen. The villagers laughed nervously. Mama Shade stepped forward, ready to spit her next insult. But then she saw what he carried. A blade, dark, curved, sharp, wrapped in clothes, but the power beneath still pulsed. "Who are you?" she asked. The man looked at her, not with anger, but with memory. "I am Babajide, son of Durojaye, last of the spirit trackers. I saw her once a year ago, when the Ajogo first touched her. The murmurs rose. You saw? And you let her leave. You let her return." Babajide did not blink. "I was weak. My father was dying. The spirits had robbed me of my strength, but I remember what he told me. He said, when the blue light returns to your eye, follow it." He pointed at Morayo. "She is the light." The crowd was quiet now. Babajide unwrapped the blade fully. The air bent around it. Carved from a falling stone, baited in river blood, bound with 7 names and sealed under the tongue of a mute priest. He held it up. "This is not for killing men. It is for ending what should never have begun." He turned to Morayo again. "You were meant to bring him down. I was just the arrow." Morayo swallowed. "Why me?" Babajide's voice softened. "Because he knew your name before anyone else did. Because when you were born, the birds went silent. Because the night he lost his mask, your mother bled without pain." Everyone turned to her mother now. She froze, eyes wide. Remembering, "You were born in silence," she whispered. No cry, no tears, just eyes wide open. Morayo looked down at her hands. They shook, but not from fear, from awakening. Babajide offered her the blade. "You don't need to carry this," he said. "But if you do, it will never lie to you." Morayo didn't take it, not yet. She looked at the people, some ashamed, some still afraid, but none brave enough to stop her. Then she took a deep breath and stepped forward. "I will go," she said, "but not alone." Babajide smiled, just a little. No one fights the Ajogo alone. They walked out of the square together, and behind them, not a single stone was thrown. Morayo and Babajide stood at the river's edge. The water was still, too still, like it was holding its breath. The villagers watched from afar, some clutching charms, others silent with dread. A silence spread, thick and deep, before the river began to stir. Slowly, the water darkened. A ripple became a wave, and then he appeared. Ajogun, not a man, not a spirit, but something in between. A floating masquerade, eyes burning like coals that never died. His presence turned the air cold. He rose like smoke and shadow, tall and terrifying. The river's blood-red tint spread outward. The villagers gasped. Babajide stepped forward, holding the sword steady. Morayo's voice broke the quiet. Soft but certain, she began to sing. It was a song she had learned, one Ajogun himself had taught her once, in a time that felt like a nightmare. The words floated on the wind, a melody that danced like firelight. The song was a bait, a trap. Ajogun's burning eyes flickered. His mask twitched. He hesitated. The floating figure swayed, caught between rage and the strange pull of her voice. Babajide didn't wait. He charged like a flame, striking fast and fierce. Their blades clashed. The sound was a thunderclap. Babajide fought with the strength of a storm. Every movement sharp and sure, but Ajogun was no ordinary enemy. He moved like water, impossible to catch. His form, blood, splitting into feathers, black, white, red, swelling around like a deadly storm. Each strike from Babajide carved the air. But the Ajogun reformed, stronger, and more furious. Morayo's song grew louder. She closed her eyes, reaching deep into memories she wished she could forget. Her voice held the power to weaken him, to unravel the ancient magic that kept him alive. The feathers slowed, then began to fall. Ajogun's mask cracked. Babajide saw his chance. With a mighty yell, he lunged, driving the meteorite blade deep into the Masquerade's chest. There was terrible silence. Then Ajogun screamed. His form burst into feathers that scattered on the wind. The river's blood washed away, turning clear and calm once more. The trapped women, those who had vanished into Ajogun's dark world, appeared by the riverbank. They looked confused and lost. None could remember what had happened. One by one, they were embraced by their families. There was peace at last in the village. But the battle had not been without cost. Babajide fell to his knees, blood seeping from a deep slash on his leg. Morayo rushed to him. He smiled weakly. "I cannot hunt anymore," he said softly, "but I can live because you are free." She took his hand. Together they walked back to the village like they were always meant for each other. They would rebuild, the village would heal. Yet, deep in the forest, where shadows still danced, a single feather drifted to the ground. A whisper of what once was, a promise that some stories never end. This is the AMEBO Storyteller, where we dig into the legends and ask, what if it was more than just a story? Kindly subscribe and put on your notification bell to get more interesting stories like this.